Player and DM tip. Remember that in a round we use action economy to help define what can happen in the span of 6 seconds. We encourage you to think outside the box and treat these closer to guidelines than actual rules. If you are a player and you want to do something you think is cool and it will fit into the span of 6 seconds, pitch it to your DM. DMs, listen and weigh the rule of cool here and make a decision that leads to the most fun. Welcome. I'm Justin, and you're listening to Dungeon Chat, our very own Into the Dungeon bi-weekly podcast, where we discuss the most recent live stream, interview our players and DMs, and discuss tabletop RPG news. In this episode, we are joined by Creed and Kyle. Kyle is a player in our main game and a fantastic artist. I will make sure to share the links to his works in the show notes. Creed joins us again. He joined me in our very first episode of Dungeon Chat and is the dungeon master that guided both Kyle and I through our first complete campaign. Both of you say hi at the exact same time on 3. 3, 2.
Hi. Howdy.
I just finished my annual rewatch of The Office, and that's a really stupid joke that's in one of the later episodes where they're trying to take a picture together. And they've already messed it up like 3 times, but then he switches it to do it on 3, and then he starts with 3, and just, it cracked me up, and I was like, I'm going to use that here.
That was great. Well done. All right.
Creed, well, I think you have the announcements today, yes?
I do have the announcements today. Hold on. Our next game is a one-shot, and we'll be playing on December 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be running the micro RPG system known as I Roll for Shoes. It's a pretty great system where each player starts with one skill called Simply Do Anything. Episode 4 of Dungeon Chat will be live on the 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and up on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts on the 11th. We will be taking a 2-week break after that for the holidays so that we can work on the new set, and we'll be back on the 29th with a New Year's themed one-shot. The main game will return January 12th.
It's a lot of announcements.
It's 4.
I don't know. It just seems like we've gotten so busy playing D&D, and that makes me so happy. Me
as well.
If we can play as much as possible, that to me seems like a good time.
Well, if I can teach anywhere near you guys, I could probably easily host a game a week if it's just like a 3-hour game, like on Friday nights or something.
I like it. I
really want to do it.
Get back up here.
I'm trying. To no avail at the moment.
Gotcha. So let's dive into talking a little bit about our the last game. So Azkhazir Game 3 was last Sunday. That stream is up on Twitch TV. It's also up on YouTube as well as wherever you get your podcast. Just search for Into the Dungeon in any of those sources. And in the last episode, Tack, the character played by Creed, opened our game by shopping for gifts for all the other characters. What motivated Tack to want to do that, and what gifts did you end up getting for everybody?
Oh, I have to go get that list of the gifts, but I know Ashley kind of hit on it a little bit. She kind of got some ideas to why things went as far as Tack's background. But when it comes to the gifts specifically, kobolds, they are kind of tribal, and they typically work for dragons, and they're typically getting trinkets and things for their tribe, for their master or whatever. And as far as we know, Tack wasn't with anybody, and she was now suddenly with this new group, and went out and got them little trinkets and things, and gave it to them as a way of showing that she's like, hey, I welcome you to me or my group or whatever group I have right now. And one person returned a gift immediately, and nobody got Tack a gift. So that's going to come into play later. So I'm excited to see that.
Wait, did I miss something? Who returned the gift? They wouldn't accept the gift?
Foreign Treehorn tried to return the gift initially.
Oh, I do. Oh, God, things go by so quickly at the table. I do remember that.
Yeah, the DM position just misses a lot. Little yeah. But yeah, that was something that happened. So,
Well,
yeah,
I
that's
even missed it.
part of the reason why Tack wasn't riding around on Foreign anymore.
Oh, God. Oh, that's right. Because in episode 1, you were.
I was riding around on Foreign.
Yeah, you were. You disguised self to look like a hat, if I remember.
Yep.
Correctly. Okay.
And he rejected the gift.
So was it really? Was it an authentic gift, or was it like tribute?
Both in a way. I mean,
gotcha.
Because the gifts were like geared
like a matter of
towards
acceptance.
Yeah, it's a matter of acceptance, and the gifts were kind of geared towards each character in a way. So it is a matter of acceptance.
I know you said you'd have to probably grab your notes, but do you remember any of the gifts offhand?
I know Salvador got some lotion for snakeskin. Not snake oil or snake lotion, but lotion designed for his snaky skin.
Okay, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Sandro got... I'm trying to remember. Pulling up my notes as I'm remembering. Sandro got a beard oil.
For his mustache.
Yep. Denim got a bow tie. Hephaestia got leaf earrings, which she then used later in the game by putting it on her arrow. Let's see. Hecate got knitted horn cozies with pom-poms on the end.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. I remember that one.
Which character am I missing? I'm Salvador, Hephaestia. Oh, and Foreign got a comb.
Yeah, that's right. The comb. And that one, I believe, was a scented comb.
I didn't have enough for the magical item.
Yeah, but it was
to make
sprayed with perfume.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, it was scented. Smell good.
Temporarily.
Yeah, because he collects things that smell good, and he returned it. So doubly awful. I hope he listens to this.
Okay, I love it. Kyle, I'm gonna try and get this right on the first saying, but it's a bit of a tongue twister for me, and I always mess it up. You are a sellsword who sells swords. Sellsword who sells swords. I got it right. You're a sellsword who sells swords, and also a snake, Yuan-ti, pureblood, which is what Creed was just referring to with your snake oil, or your snake skin oil. And you're from Jakir.
Lotion for snake skin.
Oh, lotion for snake skin. Like
You thought the
Jergens?
first one was
like Jergens, like it's moisturizing.
Jergens for your snake.
Ah, got it. They should introduce that line. You can have that, Jergens. You can have that one from us
For your
to you.
Oh no! What have I done?
Kyle, this is your first time on the show. Introduce us to your character. What can you tell us about him? What are you excited to do with him? What challenges do you expect to encounter as a Yuan-ti outside of the tropical wilds of Jakir, which is, of course, your homeland?
Right. So Jakir itself is home to many different kinds of different species and such, and one such is Yuan-ti purebloods. And they really don't substantially go much far out of Jakir. So Salvador is kind of a little bit odd in going out of Jakir and going out to cities and towns further away from it. Salvador himself is a part of a guild known as Caveras, which is both a guild that sells things like all sorts of weapons and trade and swords, but they also do kind of mercantile work. So body guards or mercenaries, so on and so forth. So they do a little bit of both. And Salvador is one of the few members that are kind of pushing outside of Jakir itself to try and expand that influence.
Gotcha. So does the Keveros Guild not have much of a foothold outside of Jakir?
Not as much, but again,
okay.
It is something that's kind of starting to expand, and obviously I presume other guilds might not care for that too much.
Gotcha. Now, as a Yuan-ti, what is what type of snake did you style yourself after?
Salvador is kind of a mix of like a cobra and a coral snake.
Gotcha.
So he's got the yellow and red and black lines, but he still has the cobra hood.
Gotcha.
I like that you're sticking with the alliteration. You're a sellsword who sells sword and is also a snake. That's a cobra coral snake. A king cobra coral snake.
King cobra coral. God.
It's the SSSSCCS.
Yeah, that's the short way to put it.
KCCS, actually.
Okay. Now, this is, to my knowledge, Kyle, you're the second character I've seen from you that is not like the very humanoid in nature. I mean, I know Yuan-tis are definitely considered humanoid, but I don't know that I've ever seen you play like just human or just elf. I've seen you play a kinku, which is just raven, and I've seen you play a snake now. Do you feel like you're drawn more to these animal races than you are other races?
I think it's a little bit more interesting to play, like, not just a human. If you're in like a big fantasy world, then why would I want to play a human? I want to play something that's different, or at the very least, like, aesthetically different. Mm-hmm. And then in the case of both the last campaign's character, Kenku, which was Kerchak, who and now Yuan-ti, they also have different kind of dynamics in the, like, social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So that can lead to different mixes in terms of how you interact with NPCs. And that's just an interesting extra little twist that adds onto it, aside from just being a normal human.
Gotcha. Okay. Very, very cool. Let's see here. Creed.
Yes.
Right. Welcome back to being a kind of a guest host on Dungeon Chat. I'm always so happy when you can make it. Do you think you'll be able to return often to these since we're doing them remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually easier to meet than the actual game, so yeah, I can be here.
I imagine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got a couple questions for you. Let's see, Justin.
Oh no, not me. I'm not here. Bye.
No, I got a question for you. How does it feel to experience the player? You've experienced the player committee from a player's perspective. How do you feel of? How does it make you feel now that you're in the DM seat? Like, do you think it's cooler? Like that, do you hear the ideas they put forward and go, oh, they got that right, or oh, they got this wrong, or that's going to be interesting to find out what happens now that you know all the cards as a DM? How does it feel to you?
Well, the easy part of that question to answer is how does it feel when I hear them like getting stuff right and throwing like legitimately good options or bad options or interesting options onto the table. I love all that. My players, and I think all players, this is probably true of all or most players, that will forever and always surprise their dungeon master, both in just sheer amount of ability to overcome an issue and also just creative thinking. Creed, you dungeon master very differently than I do, in that I have much more detailed notes going into a situation or into an encounter. And
or any notes. You have notes at all is more notes than me.
And I like to think that I have got lots of contingencies for different things, and I don't like script it or anything, but I just have an outline for what is my thought process going to be if they do this, or what is my thought process going to be if they do this, and then it's mostly improvisation from that. I just don't like to be caught on the back foot, because I'm not the greatest improvist, so I try to mitigate some of that. So in spite of all that, I'm still caught on the back foot all the time. And I love it and I hate it at the same time. I think it's just one of those things where I know there's not a whole lot I can do about it, so I just do my best to mitigate it and hope for the best.
Good. So now, go on.
I thought that was another part to your question. I'm trying to...
No, that answered the whole thing.
Got it. Cool.
Answered the whole thing. So that last encounter, that last combat of that last session we had, you kept having waves of enemies come in. How many waves did you originally plan? Did you add any extras? Did you go, okay, they're winning, I need to throw in another one, so let's use another contingency to make it continue to make this stronger? And there's something that I do when I DM is when I kind of keep an eye on the clock, and if we're in the middle of combat, I'll not do something that I know will extend the game, or I'll try and wrap it up somehow. Did you have to do anything like that from your original plan of how that fight should have gone?
No. So I like to be as authentic as possible with an experience that is planned. That particular encounter was very much meant to feel like... Well, there's a whole monologue, a villain monologue, I think you guys are going to completely miss out on, which is fine. Totally fine, because that was one of the contingencies I planned for, was what if they come out on top of this? But his Retsk, the leader of the Blades, intention with this was to prove a point and to kind of set the tone of what it means to be under the thumb of an organization of bandits like this, when so much of the military and guard presence has been sent to a war front. Which is very much the climate of that area. Now, all of that is fine and dandy, and trust and believe, there was a whole part of me that was really hoping y'all would just wake up and leave town to go hunt for the other things y'all needed, because when y'all came back, it would have been a very different town. But y'all stayed. And because y'all stayed, y'all are the heroes of this story. And D&D 5th edition makes it really easy, even at second level, to be heroic. And that is exactly what you all did. So I had a wave planned to come from the north, which was the stampeding horses. I had the ambush archers on the roof. I had a group planned to come from the south, and I had a group planned to come from the horizon line, the market district. And I had a group that was in there with Retsk in the building that he was in. I didn't add any more or subtract any. I will say the only thing I did do that was a failure on my part, and it's so difficult when you have that combat had allies with Hilda and Tristan. It had civilians being, casualties of the situation. And of course it had the enemies, and there were 3 captains in that fight, plus Retsk, who was not technically a captain, but there were 3 captains, and y'all have met a captain before.
Right, and that actually segues into my next question. At any point running all these civilians, allies, enemies, the captains, at any point was there like a point where you're like, man, am I forgetting things?
Yes.
I'm losing track.
Yes, I forgot. I forgot the same thing constantly, which was, if you remember from the fight with the captain in the last episode, the captain was supposed to have villain actions, and there was so much going on that I kept forgetting the villain actions. And that would have made that fight far more difficult.
I feel like you remembered them though. At least that's from my experience, from my point of view.
I used them twice. There was the one that I blew on trying to wrangle up the bear, and there was the one where they took Hecate captive.
That's right.
But those were the only 2 I remembered. Otherwise, they should have been doing it like every turn almost.
I think I also remember one time when one of the captains who had come in on the horse charge got killed like really early on, and then you went, wait a second, that enemy should have had more health than they did, and
that's right.
DMing is hard.
Oh, yeah.
DMing is hard.
One of the captains got mistaken for a bandit on my part, and I pulled him off the board. Which we could have retconned, but it didn't make sense to, and I'm not going to backtrack to do it.
That was a great encounter, and now that we're done making Justin feel awful, Kyle. No, I'm kidding. It was a great encounter. You're
trying to make me feel awful.
No, I don't feel awful about it. There were, in one of the last campaigns I ran, I had a lot of situations where I felt like I genuinely made really bad mistakes. as a DM, and I so far haven't felt that way in this one. I don't feel bad. I think it was just a really busy encounter.
It really was. There was a lot
going on. I think we had, like, at one point there was 2, maybe 3 separate fights in that.
Yeah, pretty much.
There was Hephaestus and Foran going after one captain and his retinue themselves. There was Salvador and Tak kind of just back to back, fighting in the thick of it with Hakate and I think Dinham. And then the third fight, I think, was Salvador by himself, just kind of trying to protect certain people and then chasing another down until finally at the end when Denham ran down to go help him. So yeah, I think you were basically running 3 separate combat encounters on the same board.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really happy. One of the things I did in that fight, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to go over, but I had a little bit of foresight and thought it would have been necessary, and I'm glad I did it, which was I thought it was ominous, but very ominously in our group chat, I said, hey, everybody, I need you to roll initiative. And then I got a bunch of initiative rolls early because I was literally building a spreadsheet if that encounter took place. All right, but yes, you said you had thoughts for Kyle. I'll be.
Yes, Kyle. Where are you, Salvador? Where are you thinking about taking him in terms of play style? Like, are you trying to keep him like someone who's up front and in the thick of it? Or are you kind of trying to make him a bit more of like a nimble sort of fighter? What are your thoughts about how you want to play him in terms of combat or role play? Like, where do you want to take him?
Before you dive into that question, Kyle, I don't think it came up in when you introduced it, but what is Salvador's class?
He is a fighter. He is who is going to be a dual wielding fighter.
Got it.
So he's definitely going to be staying kind of on the front lines. The party kind of needs that strong, just constant frontline presence, and that's what I wanted him to be there for. And my last character that I played was a rogue, and I very much focused on trying to just shoot and scoot, kind of just, and then hide, and then would occasionally just use attack of opportunity, not attack of opportunity, but take opportunities to attack and then hide kind of thing. And with this one, it's a lot more about being a fighter and kind of getting in there and doing what you can to hold down multiple opponents is kind of what I want to be able to, do, or restrain, or, just eliminate enough targets to be in the way so that the other players can do whatever they need to do. And I especially, in that big fight, Tak did the best thing ever and enlarged Salvador so I could kaiju, and that was amazing and great, and was very entertaining to be able to just grab enemies and just be like, no, you're done. Go take a nap.
Squish. Squish. Yeah, Tak wants to teach him how to do magic, if that's the way you want to take that character, but I don't think that's a conversation for this podcast.
Right, yeah. So that's something I definitely need to look into, what the different varieties are available for what I want to do, in terms of mechanical combat type stuff.
Gotcha.
And for roleplay, being a sellsword who sells swords, Salvador is obviously going to be continuing, as he has already done, to try and can spread the business of Caveras. And
that's right. He's part of a guild, isn't he? I forgot about that. He's a guild member.
He's a guild member. Yeah.
Okay.
Though, kind of funnily enough, the transaction that was done with Tak was done essentially with just Tak. It technically wasn't a guild trade. That was just under the table.
You told Tak to do it. She was completely fine with it.
Yeah. So I would like to do more appropriate trades in the future. So is something I will have to do.
Really excited at the notion of you expand as the DM. Knowing that you were leaving Jakir to expand the Keveros trade lines, and then see you get into a major trade town and immediately start trying to defraud people, I was really hoping you'd get caught.
Right. No, that
That's
would
why
have been
he didn't
hilarious.
get caught.
Yeah, that's why I was pretty careful about
Like,
not
this
getting
stupid kobold, yeah, if she gets caught, whatever.
caught. Already illegal in this town, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Got caught eventually anyways. I turned her in, actually.
Turn yourself in.
She was in my backpack.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
man.
yeah, I would like Salvador to do more like actual business. But what's going to be interesting there is that since Salvador is a Yuan-ti, he might not be as welcome in other cities and major towns. So I'm interested to see how he can kind of balance that, and if he can be like convince,
Yeah, I'm hoping that
merchants and
since
city goers of it.
since Justin is running a very, very different campaign, I'm hoping, like, it sounds like you're trying to do something that you tried to do with Kerchak as far as the role play aspect goes, but weren't really able to do with Kerchak because we were so, not only I was rushed for time as a DM, but we were rushed for, like, the end of the world in that game.
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
But since that's not happening, you'll be able to actually, like, run your business and do things. I'm excited to see how you take that when, in a way that you weren't really able to in the last game.
That was definitely something I wish I would have been able to do, but it just couldn't happen just with the way things were going. When you have the big bad, and time is precious. It's like, okay, we need to take care of this. This is far more important versus
and we also have a lot more rules for it now, I think, between Justin's rules, and I think at one point we'll further down the game we'll probably take a look at, like, Matt Colville's rules or whatever, but that's up to Justin over there.
Mm-hmm. And we've already discussed.
I very much am looking at Strongholds and Followers. Just shout out to Matt Colville, who I believe is live right now on Twitch as well, who is just incredible and has great content. But is his new Kickstarter up yet?
I believe it has been up, and I think it actually ended. They blew their goal out away. You can still get the book if you want it for Kingdoms and Warfare, I believe it's called. Just putting a plug in for him. He made like over $1 million on the book.
Not that he needs it.
Yeah, he's fine.
But no, I will shamelessly take from him anything that he is willing to pony up as advice, because it's always so good. That's where the action-oriented monsters came from that we've seen recently with the bandit captains. And it's where Strongholds and Followers comes from, which we will be introducing in some way. Just not quite there yet.
But he's not paying us. He hasn't endorsed us, unfortunately. When he does,
I wish, man.
When he does, you'll know.
You know what though? It's kind of going a little bit.
It's
meta.
really up there in his personality, though. He might actually do that if he ever found out people were using his stuff on streams. But he's just that kind of person.
But but I will tell you though, it's getting a bit of a meta conversation about the kind of the back end business that we've talked about here. I don't think I want to do any kind of sponsorships.
It's fine by me.
I think I just want to. We've talked a little bit about disabling ads on any platform that'll let us disable them, and I'm kind of lumping sponsorship into that. I kind of want to do it the PBS route if we monetize ever at all, and I'm not so sure.
Donations,
Justin,
man.
All that Monster energy drink money you could be making.
Monster energy drink.
All right. I have another question for Kyle.
No. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
This kind of has to do with a one-shot I had pitched to Justin. Without giving too many details, Kyle, of these names, which character are you most likely to play? Is it Blast Gunbomb, Bolt Vanderhuge, Butch Deadlift, Dirk Hardpeck, Punch Speed Chunk, Stump Hunkman, Thick McBighead, Slap Hardbody, Thunk Meat Boot, or Jamathan Smithbond?
They're all so good.
Well, those are the names of the characters that for the one shot.
I think Thick McBighead.
All right, that's gonna be a fun one.
When that one shot happens, we have to get Daniel up here.
Oh man, I hope he is here.
Lordy.
I mean, those are Daniel names.
Oh man, I hope he's there. I hope he plays Bolt Vanderhuge. because that character, when I made that character, I was thinking Zap Brannigan from Futurama. And
that's right.
so that's my idea of that character. So, anyways, that's all the questions I had.
So going back to some of the Jakir stuff we were talking about earlier. So Justin, me and you have briefly spoken about it, but Jakir is kind of more Aztecian and like Incan and kind of, I guess, Central America in terms of style. Like, how has it been kind of like creating that, like the culture or like the like the style around that, or the people that live in it, and fleshing that out?
Well, for starters, if you ever think that doing something Aztecian or Incan's a good idea, you're right. It's great. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of mythology there that's kind of neat to play with. I was talking to Patrick about this, and apparently in real-life mythology, there is... You always hear about, like, the City of Gold and the lost cities of El Dorado. There are apparently 7 of them that are kind of interconnected in real-life mythology. And... anytime I think of Aztec and Incan and lost cities and jungles, I go straight to Indiana Jones and those types of environments. So I've kind of wrapped all of that into Jakir. And then as far as the Aztecian and Incan stylings, had a lot of fun. Still having a lot of fun building out and planning like the ziggurats and the stepped pyramids rising up out of the jungles. I've homebrewed a couple of races and creatures that exist in those environments.
Nice.
That have been fun, that I can't wait for you all to run into. And we have some veteran players, and I'm excited for them to encounter things they've never seen before. That's always a nice surprise for those players. If you ever research like military and leadership structure of ancient Aztec and Incan,
It's amazing.
It is amazing, but the titles and ranks and positions are impossible to pronounce. So I don't like, to the degree of like Patrick, who is very historically savvy and tends to be kind of my go-to for just knowing random things. I brought him into the conversation. I was like, how do you think you say this? And help me edit this Jakir document and get it looking kind of the right kind of way. And he literally made a note on one of the titles that, maybe we should just say in the Thendelin native tongue, this is said a different way. Just because the language barrier is so intense. Because it's like Kalohetu for like the head chieftain. And that's wrong. I butchered that pronunciation, and it's like 16 letters.
That's perfect.
But no, Jakir has been really fun to build. There's definitely a few storylines that could lead y'all to Jakir. So I hope y'all get to go and check it out, and when we do, we will.
Yep, for sure. Definitely. I think it's definitely on the itinerary for Hephaestia and Forain. I definitely know they want to head that direction.
Mm-hmm. And so does Denim.
Denim does too. That's right.
Because the volcano is
there.
there.
Our tourist wants to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wants to see the volcano.
Take a moment to
go
back home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, Jakir's been fun. But Jakir's not the only place I'm excited about, just to throw that out there. There are a few places, so don't feel like you've got pressure from the DM to go a specific area. There are lots of fun things I'm pretty stoked about.
I'm stoked about Belgard. I'm going to get arrested again.
You are going to get arrested again.
I am so getting arrested. I'm going to get arrested in every single city, and I think the one in Belgard is going to be the one I can't escape from. It's going to be a challenge. Anyways.
I had actually done, in kind of regards to like Jakir a little bit, I had done like a little sketch of like a abomination of a Yuan-ti abomination as like a guard. So I just want like the guards in Jakir to be just like awful.
Is that posted somewhere? Because I've never seen it.
Did I not? I'll make sure it's posted.
Yes, please, and we'll attach it to the show notes as well.
Because I just want it to be like where it's just really unwelcome to like outsiders, or where you really got to kind of have some gusto to go into Jakir.
Well, that is definitely a concern.
So what was it? Creed.
Yes.
You.
Me.
So originally you were going to play Korhor,
Yes.
and then switch characters to Tak, and Tak has been getting along swimmingly with the other party members. So how did you go about deciding to not just change to play a different character that suits the rest of a party's play style and their morality in comparison to what you were playing, so you know when to switch up a character type to suit the rest of a party's play style?
Well, it's kind of a muscle you learn after playing several years of D&D and having multiple parties of completely different people. It's just you make a character, you have a plan for him. You're like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm interested when it comes to this character. And then when it meets the party, sometimes there's going to be some sort of altercation. There's going to be some butting heads of what to do next. With Korhor, not just the alignment was different, because he, like I said before we started this, he was a character that could have gone well with the last group that I ran for the D&D game I ran for you, because you guys were rather neutral, and having a necromancer along probably would have been a little weird, but you would have gotten used to it. But with this group here in Azkhazir,
here in Azkhazir,
yeah, you guys are trying to keep people alive, trying to take captives. He's a monster, so he's harder to hide. He's lawful evil, essentially. And and one thing it's just something you realize, look, I'm not interested in doing something radically different with this character that would go against, say, its race, because gnolls are supposed to be very evil according to D&D lore. And you eventually just say, oh, look, this is not going to work. Because I'd rather have a good time and be on friendly terms with most everybody, as opposed to always butting heads over the same things in every town, every city, every time we run into something. I can tell you right now, Korhor and Sandro Durand would not have gotten along. Sandro's trying to keep everyone alive. Korhor would be like, let's eat them. So it's something that you look back at your old D&D parties and go, I don't want to have that fight again. So I'm just going to change my character and we're going to have a good time.
And I think that's a really important thing to be able to do, is to know when to compromise and be like, okay, the character I want to play isn't suitable here.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of asking everyone else to change up their characters to suit what I want to play, it's a matter of going, okay, let me just change my character to something different, or change to a different character.
Right. That's
still be something that's enjoyable to play for me, but still suits a role within this party.
That's one thing this group hasn't experienced from what I've seen. We don't have that problem, but it's definitely happened in groups I've run before, been a player in before. And I don't know, even when players disagree on something. I think, Justin, you had that happen in your last game before this one that you ran, where you had two players that didn't agree with another two players on just basic, easy, run-of-the-mill, where does loot go stuff. And it blew up, right? It became a bigger issue than it should have been, because players weren't really
to a degree, but to a degree, it wasn't that big of a deal. We settled it, but it's But yeah, those kind of things can happen, and when you've played long enough and you can eyeball those situations, and be proactive about avoiding them, as opposed to reactive, waiting for them to happen. It's always better. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, kind of a funny bit of commentary about what I refer to, and I'm pretty sure I've heard you refer to a couple of times, Creed, as DM curse, which is we don't get to play anymore because we're stuck running games. The idea for us of switching out of a character that we want to play because of reasons we can't is not that heartbreaking for us because the alternative is just not playing at all.
Right. Yeah.
no fun allowed.
I'll play this other character I wanted to play.
Core Horror back on the shelf. I'll play him in a year when I get to play again. So,
but I'm actually, I'm having a lot of fun with TAC, and I'm able to do things I haven't been able to do in D&D before. Like I've never been able to hide out in someone's backpack. Like that's just fun. So.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this episode of Dungeon Chat. We've covered all the big things as we get ready for going into the holidays. We don't have another episode of the main game this year. The next main game episode will be January 12th, I believe. Yeah, January 12th. So please tune in. But between now and then, there are 2 different one-shots we'll be doing as we kind of fill in the time and respect people's holiday schedules amongst our players. They will still be on Sunday. So tune in next Sunday for the first of those 2. And we will see you all then. Thank you so much for listening. And bye-bye.